A point on power, an excerpt from The Mark and the Market. Part 2. For thousands of years, power has been visualized as either economic, military, or numerical strength. In recent years, monetary value has been equated with power more than previous centuries. In previous centuries, nautical or navy and military power was perceived as the real strength of nations. Post-Adam Smith, the wealth of nations were the determining factor in deciding power. The wealth of nations was equated with industry, technological advancement, and population mobility. Post-World War II, power became equated with literal monetary value. This is manifested in the GDP being used as a baseline for determining a nation's, and the individual's, economic stability, and thereby developmental trajectory. The developmental trajectory fundamentally determines economic markets. To be precise, loans and interest rates are determined based on projections and speculation. Investments and economic planning is determined by sociopolitical stability. The stability of society is determined by either placation, coercion, or propaganda. To be clear, power is now fundamentally attached to how well a public may be placated, coerced, and propagandized. At the core of power is financial stability and monetary value. Financial development thus requires stable population and socioeconomic policies. Investors strategically take into account contentions, conflicts, and sociopolitical relations. An important factor to note is that within recent years, many nations have seen a rise in sociopolitical unrest and protest. Every great nation has been experiencing varying forms of protests. This creates economic divestments and increased rates of capital flight due to that instability. Using militaries to take over countries is slowly becoming a thing of the past. There are more significant and sophisticated ways of exerting power without force or coercion. In fact, strategically speaking, economic cooperation allows for governments to symbolically expand their territories both across land borders and oceans. For the last 100 years, America has had the opportunity to become a true empire. However, its short-sighted and economically exploitative policies, institutions, and companies have caused this opportunity to be lost, possibly for good. To explain this type of imperial power, it is necessary to consider the South American nations that are continentally tied to America. The European and newly formed African Union are examples of modern empires. These nations cooperate, share industries, knowledge systems, and offer economic benefits for that cooperation. America has had this opportunity to create or formalize an American continental union, with all nation-states from Argentina and Mexico in the south to Canada in the north. This opportunity has slipped through the American economic and security fingers for decades. Through integrated partnerships, economic incentives, and strategic alliances, American economic stability may have seen 1,000 years of progress. By expanding manufacturing southward, not only could the American border be secured, but the influx of manufactured goods and services could have created significant employment, minimized expensive and tumultuous shipping routes. Instead of manufactured goods being shipped from the Far East, manufactured goods could have been shipped from less than half the distance away. This reduces emissions, energy costs, and time frame associated with shipping. Currently, shipping costs are more costly than the manufacturing costs for most goods shipped from the Far East. However, the historical, contentious, and exploitative practices of American companies in South America have not been assuaged with new and respectful dialogue between equals. Instead, America exerts military might without considering the gains that could be achieved through a respectful, dignified, and integrity-based relationship with South American nations and their leaders. Taking over or exerting rights over, for example, the Panama Canal is certainly not strategic. Creating manufacturing agreements that allows those with such agreements free use of the Panama Canal is strategic. Such a policy does two things. It creates economic incentives to integrate America's manufacturing needs within South American nations, and it facilitates strategic territorial/border rights without ever exerting military power. More economic opportunities in South America means less illegal immigration, with manufacturing being used as a buffer to illegal immigration. Moreover, by creating respectful economic alliances with South American nations, American companies would not have enriched one of America's most significant enemies. These strategic economic alliances with South America, by way of manufacturing companies, also creates a buffer against invasion from both land and sea, both Pacific and Atlantic. A truly great opportunity was lost due to prejudicial, conflictual, and contentious historical relations, from lower costs of living, to lower national debt, to lower influx of illegal substances, a greater life expectancy, job security, and decreased dependencies on distant territories, with significantly different cultural and religious beliefs. Most South American territories have Catholic Christian histories, albeit contentious. By healing these historical wounds through honest and integrous diplomacy, America could have developed regional allies through strategic partnerships, way beyond Mexico and Canada. In Canada, the rights of Native and Indigenous populations are respected and openly noted by politicians. This basic form of respect is not shared or mirrored by many American politicians, which creates questions as to how aligned are any strategic partnership between American and Canada, where one nation respects and honors the original inhabitants while the other disrespect and dishonors their original inhabitants. Ideologically unaligned and strategically problematic. Real power is restraint, self-control, and self-governance. Dominance, coercion, and military might negates the intrinsic human value of mutual progression while embracing the nihilism of mutual destruction. That is, power has become a method of viewing the world, including dissent and directly oppositional governments, through a reductionist's worldview. The complementary worldview is rarely discussed or applied to politics and power, thereby creating dialogues and diplomacies of contention. This contentious directive is noted in the structure of political systems based on party and party politics, which brings us back to the concern on power. Thanks for listening. Select the next video for part 3. Comment and share.